In the early 1980s, Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson were close friends. Not professionally close, not the carefully managed, mutually beneficial proximity that famous people sometimes describe as friendship. Actually close. They cooked together at Freddie Mercury's house. They went to the supermarket together in disguise to buy groceries. They called each other on the phone without an occasion requiring the call. They were, in the specific way that two people from completely different worlds can be, genuinely fond of each other. And then in approximately 1983, they went into the studio together to record. They made 3 songs. And then something happened. The session stopped. The songs were never finished. The songs were never released. They were not publicly explained. And Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson, who had been cooking dinner together and going to the supermarket in disguise, stopped speaking. Not gradually, not with a public falling out, not with the specific drama of 2 celebrities in a dispute that reaches the press. They simply stopped. The friendship, the real one, the supermarket one, the cooking dinner one, was over. And nobody has ever fully explained why. Michael Jackson said very little about Freddie Mercury publicly. Freddie Mercury, in the interviews of his later years, described the studio sessions with a specific, careful humor that contained something that was not humor. He talked about the llama. And people laughed, and he let them laugh, and that was the public version of what happened in the studio. This video is about what was underneath the public version. The friendship between Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson developed in the early 1980s, when both were operating at a level of fame that made ordinary human contact genuinely difficult. By 1982, Michael Jackson was the most famous person on earth. The Thriller album became the best-selling album in history. Freddie Mercury was at the peak of Queen's commercial and artistic success, his frontman status described by everyone who had seen him as the most extraordinary live performance in the history of rock. These two people, at these 2 heights, found each other's company a specific relief. What they shared was not the music. Their worlds were entirely different. What they shared was the specific experience of being that famous, that constantly required to be the public version of themselves. In Freddie Mercury's house, away from the cameras, they were simply 2 people who found each other genuinely interesting. The supermarket trips, both in disguise, buying groceries together, were not an eccentricity. They were the specific, deliberate seeking of the ordinary that very famous people sometimes need. At some point in approximately 1983, Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson decided to record together the decision of 2 people who were friends and who were curious about what would happen if they made music together. The sessions took place at studio facilities associated with Michael Jackson's recording work of that period. The material they worked on was 3 songs in various states of completion. What is part of the public record is that the sessions produced 3 tracks that were considered musically interesting and that the sessions then stopped. The 3 tracks have never been released. They remain in a vault in the unreleased material from Michael Jackson's archive, where the legal and administrative complexity of that estate has kept them inaccessible. 3 songs, made by 2 of the most famous musicians in the world, at the peak of both their careers, during a period of genuine friendship. Unreleased for over 40 years. Unreleased for over 40 years. 3 songs made by 2 of the most famous musicians in the world that the world has never heard. This is the specific quality of the Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson studio story that makes it unlike almost any other unreleased material story in the history of popular music. Most unreleased material is unreleased because it is not good enough, or because it does not fit the commercial moment, or because the logistics of release never aligned. The Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson material is unreleased for a different reason, or rather, for reasons that have never been fully stated. The friendship ended. The songs did not come out. Whether the ending of the friendship caused the songs to stay in the vault, or whether the events of the studio sessions that ended the friendship also ended the willingness to release what the sessions had produced, this connection has never been publicly established. But the connection is there in the timing. The sessions stopped. The friendship ended. The songs stayed where they were. 3 songs in a vault. And the friendship they were made inside, gone. Freddie Mercury's public account of why the sessions ended focused, with deliberate humor, on a llama. Michael Jackson had developed a notable relationship with animals in this period the various pets that became widely reported aspects of his personal life. The llama was, by Freddie Mercury's account, brought to the recording studio, and Freddie Mercury described it with the light touch of someone who has found the most easily tellable version of a story and who is using it to stand in for the version they are not telling. The llama story is a good story. It makes people laugh. It gives the interviewer something to print without giving them anything that escalates. It is also, in every meaningful sense, not the full story. The full story is the specific nature of the creative friction that developed between the two of them. Two people whose working methods and approaches to music were, it turned out, significantly incompatible. The llama is the public version, the incompatibility is the actual version, and the incompatibility has never been fully described. The outlines of the incompatibility are available from accounts that have emerged since the sessions. Michael Jackson's approach to recording in the Thriller era was characterized by the perfectionism that produced that album's extraordinary success. He worked in hundreds of takes on single vocal phrases. He needed the studio to be a very particular kind of space-controlled, focused, free from disruptions. Freddie Mercury, whose approach was more spontaneous and improvisational, someone who recorded from instinct as much as from preparation, found the atmosphere of a Michael Jackson recording session constraining, and Michael Jackson found the specific energy of Freddie Mercury, the quickness, the irreverence, the refusal to take anything entirely seriously, something he was not able to work within. Two genuine creative geniuses, two completely incompatible working methods, three songs that bear the mark of what happens when those two things meet in a studio and cannot find a resolution. After the studio sessions ended and the friendship dissolved, Freddie Mercury spoke about Michael Jackson in interviews in the specific manner of someone who is being careful. Not hostile careful. He did not say negative things about Michael Jackson. He did not describe the sessions in terms that would have invited a public dispute. He used the llama story, which accomplished the goal of giving the interviewer something to print without giving them anything that would escalate. He described his admiration for Michael Jackson's talent in terms that were genuine as far as they went. And he said very little else. The carefulness is itself informative. Freddie Mercury was not, by nature or practice, someone who was careful about expressing his views. He said what he thought with the specific directness of someone who had decided that honesty was more interesting than diplomacy. The careful treatment of the Michael Jackson question in the interviews of the mid to late 1980s is therefore notable precisely because it is careful. He was not saying nothing because there was nothing to say. He was saying nothing because what there was to say was something he had decided not to say. The llama story was the shape of the container. What it contained was the actual story, and the actual story stayed where the three songs stayed. The actual story stayed where the three songs stayed, in a vault, in the specific privacy that both of them maintained around the subject. Michael Jackson, in the years after the sessions, did not speak about Freddie Mercury or about the collaboration in any public forum. Freddie Mercury, who died in 1991, left behind the llama story and the careful silence and nothing else on the record. And the people around both of them, the management, the inner circles, the people who were present for some of what happened, have maintained the same specific privacy that both principals maintain. What we have is the shape of the story, the friendship, the sessions, the three songs, the ending. What we do not have is the content of the shape, what happened in the studio specifically, why the session stopped specifically, what the conversation was, if there was a conversation, when the friendship ended. These are the things that neither of them left on the record. And the three songs are the specific physical evidence of the thing that was made before. Whatever happened made during the friendship, during the sessions before the end. The three songs have been the subject of significant speculation across 40 years. The specific content is unknown to anyone outside the circle with access to Michael Jackson's archive. What is known is that the material was considered by at least some of those involved to have genuine musical merit. Freddie Mercury's extraordinary rock tenor and Michael Jackson's extraordinary pop tenor, two of the most recognizable voices of the 20th century placed on the same track. The world has been denied that experience for over 40 years, not because the material does not exist, not because it was destroyed, but because the circumstances of how it was made and how the making ended have kept it in the vault where it has been since 1983. The sessions produce something. Whatever that something is sits in an archive, unreleased, belonging to an estate that has not chosen to release it. And the friendship that produced the sessions is gone. The question of why the 3 songs have never been released is both simple and complicated. The simple version: Michael Jackson's estate controls the material and has not chosen to release it. Underneath that, Michael Jackson's archive is one of the most legally complex in the history of popular music. The Freddie Mercury side is, in some sense, simpler. The Queen estate has expressed interest, but the material is not theirs to release. It sits in Jackson's archive, where the ending of the collaboration left it in 1983. And the combination of legal complexity and personal history means that their release, if it ever happens, will carry the specific weight of everything that surrounded their making. Their release, if it ever happens, will carry the specific weight of everything that surrounded their making. The friendship that produced them is gone. The sessions that produced them ended in circumstances that neither party fully described. The 3 songs sit in a vault, carrying the specific quality of things made in a friendship that no longer exists, the sound, presumably, of 2 extraordinary voices in a studio together, when the studio was still a place where both of them wanted to be. Before the llama story became the public version, before the careful silence became the only version. The 3 songs are the document of a specific moment in time that has no other document, a moment when Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson were close enough to make music together, in the specific conditions of a real friendship, before whatever happened in the studio produced the distance that made those conditions impossible. The ending of the Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson friendship was, in the context of both their lives, a specific loss. Not because famous friendships have a special status, but because genuine friendships between people at that level of fame were genuinely rare. The supermarket trips, the cooking dinner, the phone calls without occasion, these were the evidence of a friendship that was real in the sense that mattered, not managed by publicists, but existing simply because 2 people found each other's company genuinely good. For Freddie Mercury, who trusted very few people with the ordinary domestic version of his life, this was a specific kind of trust. The studio sessions were the natural extension of that trust. The ending of the sessions was the ending of something genuinely valued. The llama story is the public version of what was lost. The actual loss was not the kind of thing that gets a public version. Michael Jackson's silence about Freddie Mercury after the sessions was, by the standards of his public behavior in the 1980s, notable. He spoke about James Brown, about Diana Ross, about the musicians who had shaped his work. He did not speak about Freddie Mercury, not publicly, not in any recorded forum. In the 8 years between 1983 and Freddie Mercury's death in 1991, there is no documented instance of Michael Jackson saying anything substantive about Freddie Mercury. This silence is its own kind of statement. The distance was not the distance of indifference. It had the specific quality of a distance maintained deliberately, someone keeping something private, not because the subject does not matter, but because the subject matters too much for the public version. The distance of someone keeping something private because the subject matters too much for the public version. This is what both of them maintained: Freddie Mercury with the llama story and the careful silence. Michael Jackson with the simple silence. 2 people who had been genuinely close, who had cooked dinner together and gone to the supermarket in disguise, and made 3 songs in a studio, maintaining the specific distance of people who have decided that what happened between them is not available for public account. The 3 songs sit in the vault. The friendship sits wherever the things that were never resolved sit, in the specific private place where Freddie Mercury kept the things he did not talk about, and where Michael Jackson kept the things he did not talk about, and where neither of them left any account that would allow the full story to be assembled from the outside. Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson were close friends. They went to the supermarket together in disguise. They cooked dinner together. They called each other on the phone without a reason. And then they went into a studio and made 3 songs, and something happened, and they never spoke again. The 3 songs are in a vault. They have been in a vault for over 40 years. The world has never heard them. Freddie Mercury talked about the llama and let people laugh and said nothing else on the record. Michael Jackson said nothing on the record at all. The friendship, the supermarket friendship, the cooking dinner friendship, the calling each other on the phone friendship is gone. And the three songs which were made inside that friendship, before whatever happened in the studio produced the distance that made the friendship impossible, sit in the vault with the specific quality of things that were made in a time that no longer exists. Neither of them said what happened. Not publicly. The llama story is the shape of the container. The three songs are what was inside the container when the friendship was still there. The three songs are still in the vault. The friendship is not.